Our next speaker is Kaaren Hall. She owns uDirect IRA Services. I heard Kaaren speak at an investment club, and unfortunately the presentation didn't work. And so when you have a presentation and it doesn't work, that can usually be a problem, but Kaaren is such a good speaker, it wasn't a problem. She actually, I think, had more fun just ad-libbing the whole way through it. So she's a very good speaker. And the subject is very important because a lot of us have decided we're going to have as much money as we can in our IRAs and different types of retirement vehicles, but it's the nature of this group to be creative. And sometimes we create ourselves right into a big problem when we don't know it. So the first thing you do when you tell a real estate investor he has a non-tax or a tax or temporary tax-free pile of money is they go, okay, can I use it this way and this way and this way? And can I get this person involved? Can I do these things? Can I loan my other businesses money? And probably in the first inning of that, you're already in trouble. And getting in that kind of trouble is not so hot. So Karen's going to talk about that, what to do, what not to do, and where to do it. Okay, so Kaaren, welcome back, and thank you.
I greatly appreciate that. I think my mic's on. And by the way, let's give the Norris Group a great big hand for this beautiful event that they are hosting for us this morning. We've had it elsewhere, and then when Aaron said let's do this at the Wilson Creek Winery, we came out here because we had to have lunch, right? We had to check it out, and just so happy to be here. It's just gorgeous. And hey, guess what? They have wine here. We'll take care of that afterwards. As Bruce said, my name's Kaaren. I'm Kaaren Hall, and I'm president of uDirect IRA Services. And we've helped thousands of people all over the country to take their retirement accounts and invest outside of the stock market. So they've been able to improve their financial future by investing in things like real estate, but also precious metals, notes, maybe oil and gas. There's just so many things. In fact, the IRS doesn't say what your IRA can invest in. IRS says what it can't invest in. It's a very short list, as I'll get into. And I have a PowerPoint for you, but I also want to go a little bit off the track as well, because there's so many, like Bruce says, investors are creative people, and you have creative questions. I just got asked a question before I came up, and that is, are you going to talk about tax-free investing strategies? And the answer is yes. It's called a Roth IRA. So when you hear me talk about the Roth IRA, what the rules are, how you get in, how you get out, and that is a tax-free real estate investing strategy that a lot of people use. It's very, very powerful. Tax-free money is the best, right? So at uDirect IRA Services, what we specialize in is providing self-directed IRAs. What we don't do is give you tax advice. I love Matt and Amanda for that. I refer them all the time. We don't give legal advice, but we're going to hear from Teresa coming up next, and so we're going to get a little legal advice about what we can and can't do with our estates. And also, what we don't do is give you investment advice. Is this a good deal? One thing you're never going to get is a phone call from me saying, hey, this is a great investment, you should look at it, because we do not endorse any particular investment at all. It's entirely self-directed, so guess what? You're driving the bus. That's pretty cool. And we're Americans. It's the rugged individualist, right? We love this. We love doing it ourselves. And it's so important, too, because I guess if you don't like doing it yourself, you give your money to somebody like Bernie Madoff, right? Let him do it for you. I think I'd rather do it myself. What about you? Show of hands. Yeah, I think I pretend that all your hands are raised. All right. So, of course, a self-directed IRA is, of course, for retirement. And when the IRS is looking at your self-directed IRA, they want you to use it for retirement purposes only. And they're pretty serious about it. Do you ever notice that the IRS doesn't have a huge sense of humor? Kind of. So it's for retirement. And that's great because there's a huge deficit between what Americans have and what they need to retire. You don't want to be caught in that middle ground of not quite having enough. And guess what? You're here, you're learning this morning, you're interested in the topic, you're going to be part of the top 1% or whatever who actually takes action to make sure that your retirement account is up to speed, so when you do finally need it, that it's there for you. Now, if you, say, had $100,000 in a retirement account, that seems kind of like a lot of money to a lot of people to retire. Hey, I got $100,000, but it's not going to go very far. We're living longer than ever. So I really hope that you'll take what I say today and use it to save for your retirement in the future so that you are comfortable in your later years. When it comes to total retirement funds, I can update these numbers to say that there's something like $19 or $20 trillion in retirement money. Wow, right? So much money. It's defined benefit plans, it's 401ks, about $5.5 trillion is IRAs. They're all different kinds of retirement accounts, but there's a lot of money out there, and only 3 to 4% of that money is in alternative assets. And that means not the stock market, not stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. So you've been able to self-direct for nearly 40 years. Isn't that kooky? A long, long time. And if you self-direct your IRA, you're an early adapter. Even after 40 years, you're still in the beginning stages of people really understanding that they have the power to take control of their own retirement accounts. So if you have anybody here not heard of a self-directed IRA before? No, that's great, because a lot of times I get the phone call, and I even had one last week. Well, you know, my CPA says you can't have real estate in a retirement account. I just love those phone calls. It's like, who is your CPA? Let me have you talk to somebody else. Because, again, remember Gerald Ford, when he was our president back then? He signed the ERISA laws into effect in '74 that made this possible. So it's been that long, going on. I guess it went into effect in 1975. So coming on 40 years, you've been able to do this. It's nothing new, but still a lot of companies don't know about it, which is why we work so closely, for example, with Keystone CPA, because they're CPAs that really, really understand this. They're not going to tell you you can't do it, because you absolutely can. If you can't do it, I don't know, I've been doing this for 4 years, or make that longer, make it almost 10 years. So yeah, you can, I promise. So what's the difference? The only difference between a regular retirement account that you have, say, with Fidelity or Charles Schwab or E-Trade or something like this, is what you can invest in. So all the rules are the same for how much you can put in, how much you can take out, and how much you have to take out if you're over 70 and a half. All the tax rules are exactly the same. So a self-directed IRA, the reason I'm up here is because I'm telling you how you can take this account and use it for so many different things. For example, maybe you've got a friend who is in the medical industry, and your friend has come up with this great new medical device, and they're looking for seed capital to create the device, and maybe you feel that that's a very good investment. Your IRA can invest in either by making a note to that person or by maybe buying shares of their company to invest in private enterprise. So self-directed IRAs can even help spur the economy, and they do all the time, by investing in new businesses and startup, or even existing businesses, making loans and things. Very powerful. Terry, I think you've made a loan or two. You kind of like that? Has that worked out well for you? Yeah, she says very good. So there's so many different things your IRA can do, and as a creative investor, this is time to put your thinking caps on and think, wow, how could I use my money, invest it this way, and have the money come back tax-free or tax-deferred? Okay, loss is just like any other IRA. If you lose money, anybody ever lose money in the stock market? I see no hands going up. You guys probably are drinking coffee or something, because I know we all have, right? And I know you all have. And so, but you can't write off those losses, and they're very hard to replace because we've got contribution limits. So just make sure you do your due diligence. I was talking to Bruce before this. We were talking about fraud. I just got back from a meeting of the Retirement Industry Trust Association. They call it RITA, for the acronym for short, because everything out of Washington D.C. has to have an acronym, doesn't it? You ever notice that? So at RITA, we talked about one of the things that we're really, really looking at is fraud awareness, and trying to make everybody aware that fraud can happen to you. So I'm just going to put a little commercial out here for fraud awareness. Before you invest, on our website is a list of institutions, government institutions you can go to, who have entire anti-fraud divisions that you can say, hey, look, I'm thinking about investing with this person in this thing. What do you know about them? And they'll help you out. I've got their phone number on my website. I've got their website on my website. Check it out. And for Pete's sakes, Google the name of the principal you're investing with. If you're not going to buy a house straight out, or if you don't know the person, just Google their name. We helped one of our account holders save $500,000 that they were going to invest in a deal, and they hadn't even Googled the name of the principal, because if they had, they would have found out that principal, that person making the investment offering, had actually been in jail for 2 years. I mean, imagine $500,000. Wouldn't you just Google the name? I think we really should. I'm just going to recommend that right there. It's not investment advice, though. All right, so what are the limits? The IRS doesn't say, like I said, what you can invest in, just what you can't, and that's a list right there. 2 things, life insurance and life insurance contracts and collectibles. So no fine wine collection in your IRA. Maybe you're thinking you take your IRA and go buy a couple cases over here. No, can't do that. Or fine art collection, or collectible cars are not going to go into your IRA. Also, S corporations. S corporations aren't disallowed by the IRS, but the way they're structured, they don't let IRAs be shareholders. So those are some of the things your IRA can't do. Everything else is just so wide open to your imagination, pretty much. Now, if you've got funds with a current employer, and you're thinking, wow, this self-directing thing seems really great. I've got this 401k, I've got a 403b. I think I'm going to take it, I'm going to self-direct, and I'm going to maybe buy some trust deeds, or maybe I'm going to buy a house out here in Temecula or something like that, like a rental property. Well, you know what? You may be able to do that if you go to them and ask for an in-service transfer. Otherwise, you have to wait till you don't work there anymore. They're not going to let go of your money if it's with your current employer. So just be real careful about that and aware of it, and we'll help you. But go to their plan administrator and say, hey, can I have an in-service transfer? And if the answer is yes, then you can self-direct it. But more often than not, the answer is no. But hey, still save as much as you can for retirement, even especially if they'll match. It's great. Now, I think with self-directed IRAs, one of the big things is your expectations. And with expectations, I guess it's time to talk about the rules. I don't know anywhere else, and Teresa, you'll have to tell me if you know, and Amanda, if you know of anywhere else where they have these kinds of rules about what you can do. Because with our private money, we can do really anything we want. We can take our money and invest with our kids. We can buy a house our dad owns. We can invest in our own personal businesses, but the IRS doesn't allow this. So these are rules that you're not going to see anywhere else. And if you come to us with these expectations that you're going to be able to do these things and you can't, you'll be disappointed. So that's why I'm here, because I want you to have a good experience. I want you to have the right expectations. So we'll talk about the rules. IRS.gov is a website. Publication 590 is where you can read rules about Roths and SEPs, and you can also read about Roth and traditional IRAs there. So it talks about some of the things that we can and can't do right there. It's one place where you can find some of the rules. You're not going to borrow money from an IRA, and that's really important. You can sometimes from a 401k, like an employer plan. That's a different kind of retirement plan. An IRA, an individual retirement arrangement, is different. It has different rules. Don't borrow money from it. You don't sell anything you own to it. You're also not going to be using it as security for a loan. That's really important. And you're not going to be able to use that for buying property for personal use, present or future. So just be very careful about what you're doing and what your intentions are when you go in. Now here's where it gets weird, right? Certain people are allowed and certain people are disallowed to your IRA. These disallowed people, your lineal ascendants and descendants. Your parents and grandparents and their spouses, you and your spouse, then your children and your grandchildren and their spouses are disallowed to your IRA. All right, so we'll talk about what that means in a minute. The people who are allowed, though, are the people out to the sides on your family tree, like your brothers and sisters, your aunts and uncles, your cousins. Those people are allowed, and so let's put that into perspective now. Prohibited transactions. By the way, I have to say that an attorney we work with a lot at uDirect, a man named Matt Sorensen, is coming out with a book, and I'm helping him edit that book right now. I'm very excited because it talks about all these rules, and it's such a great book for IRA investing. But he talks a lot about prohibited transactions in that book, and the way I look at it is they really fall into three buckets. Number one is that you're not going to have any personal benefit. Present benefit, personal benefit, indirect benefit from that IRA. It's only for retirement. That's it. So my favorite example of that is the gentleman who came to my office with a note, so excited to have his IRA lend money. And I said, well, that sounds pretty good. Who are you going to lend money to? He says, oh, well, I'm going to lend money to my sister-in-law. So you think, okay, where's she on the family tree? She's out here, right? So that's fine. You can lend money to your IRA can lend money to your sister-in-law. But I thought I'd ask another question, and I'd go a little deeper. I said, well, when your sister-in-law gets that money, what's she going to do with it? He says, oh, well, she's going to invest in my business. He was so excited and sincere about that. But guess what? That's indirect benefit. The IRS has something called the indirect rule. So if the money starts in your IRA, even if it goes to your sister-in-law or a corporation or something else, if it ends up giving you personal benefit by ending up in your company, that's a prohibited transaction. Number two is that you're not going to buy, sell, or exchange assets between the plan, the IRA, and anybody who's disqualified. So that means your IRA is not going to buy a house from your dad. Your IRA isn't going to sell a house to one of your kids. You and your wife aren't going to take your IRAs and trade properties or anything like that. That won't happen. And number three, a disallowed person can't provide goods, services, or facilities to the plan. A little vague, but I'll explain what that means. What that means is maybe you're a realtor. Do we have any realtors? Everybody's big about raising their hand today, so let's see. We have people admit they're realtors. That's great. No, we need you so much. Thank you very much. But say you're a realtor and your mom comes to you and says, I've got this retirement account and I really am looking to boost my income in my retirement. Can you help me find a house for my IRA to buy? What do you think the answer is? Technically, no. Could you do it for free? No, I know. You think, oh, if I don't get paid, that's okay. But services, say your IRA owns a house and you're very, very good at drywalling and you kind of enjoy it. And you think, oh, well, this is great. My IRA is going to buy this house. I'm going to do all the drywalling in it. Do you think you could do that? They call it, you're right, no, it's called an overcontribution of sweat equity. Do you love that? How they tax you when you die, right, Teresa? And they tax you when you sweat. So you better be very careful, So you're not going to be doing that. So what happens if you commit a prohibited transaction? I mean, that sounds kind of nice, doesn't it? It's just prohibited. It's not like, you don't really think you're going to see the SWAT team jump out of the van and come get you or anything like that. It just sounds like a little slap on the wrist. No, it's not very nice. What happens is they basically say, okay, you don't have an IRA anymore. All that money in your IRA, not just the amount of the asset in question, but all the money, it's gone. Now it's income. And they may assign taxes on top of it and penalties. So we do everything we can to prevent prohibited transactions when we see them, but the onus on whether or not it's a prohibited transaction is on you, the IRA holder. It's a self-directed IRA, and it's your responsibility, first and foremost, to make sure that you're not committing a prohibited transaction. And we'll talk to you all day long about it. That's what we do every day, is talk to people about tell me about your deal. What are you looking to do? How are you going to work this? And investors are so smart. They're trying to come in the back door like here and do it like this, and the IRS figured it out already. So just know following the rules is so much easier. Okay. How do self-directed IRAs work? And this goes again toward setting your expectations of what you're going to be looking at. When you go buy a house, have you ever bought a house but had somebody else sign the purchase contract for you? That sounds weird, doesn't it? Well, with the self-directed IRA, you're not the buyer. The IRA is. So you don't sign that offer to purchase. We sign it on behalf of your IRA. So it's something you may not even expect. You may go into that deal having already signed the offer to purchase, and you're so excited because you want your IRA to buy it. Guess what? Your IRA cannot buy an asset that you have an ownership interest in. So you have to be careful and really understand the rules. It's very important. So there's you and there's your IRA, two separate entities. Then there's uDirect IRA Services. And when I formed the company in 2009, I was shopping for a custodian to hold our clients' funds. And so I was talking to banks. Remember 2009 with banks and how they were falling like flies? I thought, bank maybe not so much. So ultimately I chose a trust company for our clients' funds. So these are the players. There's uDirect IRA Services. We hold your hand through the whole thing, from beginning to end. What are the rules? What are you going to invest in? Moving your funds. We're going to help you with everything. And that's our role in the self-directed IRA process. So buying real estate with an IRA. Yeah, that sounds like fun, doesn't it? I mean, some of the things Bruce is talking about, it's very exciting to see profits and to see things come back to you tax-free or tax-deferred. But like anything, there's pros and cons. And so just to be fair, we probably should talk about that, right? So I think the upside to investing with your IRA in real estate is, how do you feel about how that money is performing now? How do you feel about, we have some kind of budget problem, or that Congress can't get its act together about the debt ceiling or something, and suddenly the stock market drops. How do you feel about that? Or would you rather have your money in an asset that you know and understand? Up to you, right? So I think the number one thing is that there's a lot of money out there and you've got the freedom. But of course, the pro side is that all the profit comes back into the account, tax-free in a Roth, tax-deferred in the other kinds of IRAs. No time limit for holding the property. I'm sure Matt and Amanda can tell you that if you buy a house and you keep it for 1 year, you may have different tax consequences than if you held it for 2 years, right? Outside the IRA. But inside the IRA, you could buy it today and sell it tomorrow, and there's no tax consequence. Keep it for 20 years. It's no different, no tax consequence. An IRA can borrow money. This is really interesting. We'll talk about it. It's not a Freddie Fannie loan, I'll tell you that. And there's a potential to earn a larger rate of return. I like this about self-directed IRAs because say you buy a house, you find a good one today, it's $100,000, right? So your IRA buys this house. And now you hold on to it, you get the rents, they come in, tax deferred, you're super happy. Now you decide, wow, the market just changed. I can sell this house for $200,000. So excited. So you go out there and you sell the house, right? Escrow closes and you get a check back into your IRA for $200,000. Well, if that money went in your own personal pocket, who do you think the next person is to dip their hand in your pocket for some of that profit? Of course, it's the tax or IRS, right? But when it comes back into an IRA, the entire $200,000 can go back out into your next deal. So that's how it compounds faster, because it's not diminished by tax. And that's a huge benefit to use to your advantage. Be strategic. The downside about buying real estate in an IRA is you're not going to take the same tax write-offs that you do when you own real estate outside the IRA. You're still getting the income tax free or tax deferred. It can still be a great thing. In fact, I think it's a very great thing to do, but you're not going to be able to write anything off. Your IRA owns a condo in Hawaii. You think, oh, I think I'll go to Hawaii and go visit my condo that my IRA owns, and I'll just write that off on my taxes. Nope, doesn't work that way. No tax benefits like when you own it outside the IRA. So it's different, still great, but different. You're solely responsible for all gains and losses. It's a self-directed IRA, and you're the one driving the bus. You're telling us what you want to invest in. You're telling us how much money, who to send it to, and when, and all that. So it's entirely on you. We are administrators following your orders, kind of like escrow is. Like escrow doesn't tell you what house to buy, or if you don't like the house, it's not on escrow. You're the one that chose the house. So if you want to make an analogy, it's kind of like that. Okay, your IRA can borrow money. Having been a lender, when I found this out, I was kind of blown away, because what do you mean they'll make a loan to an IRA? It's not a loan to you at all. Pretty cool. It's a loan to the account. It's not about your FICO score. It's not about how long you've worked at your job. It's not about how much other money you have in the bank. This loan is made to the IRA account, and it's based upon things like the cash flow on the property. It's based on its location, its condition, but mostly the cash flow. All right, so not a lot of lenders to choose from, and they're definitely going to require a higher down payment. And if you would like a list of non-recourse lenders, I'd be happy to send you that list. Not people we necessarily endorse, but as a courtesy, we put together a list. And just send me an email at khall@udirectira.com, and I'll send you that list. So not a lot of lenders to choose from, but what's really, really important is you cannot personally guarantee a loan to your IRA. You just can't. And that's why I love the phone call. Hey, Kaaren, I'm so excited. I found a house. Okay, I put it under contract. It's in my own name, and I've got a loan with the bank, and we're ready to go. Now I want my self-directed IRA to come up with a down payment. The reason that you can't do that is, first off, you can't personally guarantee a loan to your IRA. So you can't do that. And there's no recourse to that bank against your loan because it's an IRA. If your IRA was going to come in as a junior lien or something, it doesn't work that way. And I think it's probably the number one misconception is that your IRA could be a down payment on a regular kind of a purchase. It can't. So it's super important to have that expectation. So no personal guarantees. But when your IRA does borrow money, it's going to throw off a tax. And it's a tax called UDFI. Wait a minute, you say. My IRA is tax-free or tax-deferred. And that's true most of the time unless your IRA borrows money. And I'll tell you about the other time, the other case. UDFI, unrelated debt-financed income tax. So read about this. Talk to Matt and Amanda about it. You can read about it at irs.gov, publication 598. That's where you're going to find out. So that's something to look out for. Another time the IRA can be taxed is if the IRA is running a business. And so it's called unrelated business income tax. Anybody a flipper in the room? Yeah? Remember when that was a dolphin? Okay. Now it's an opportunity to get taxed. So that's active income, isn't it? Your IRA's flipping properties. Well, there are different conditions under which you may have to pay tax. Your IRA would have to pay tax on the proceeds of running an active business in your IRA, so be real careful of that. So how do you get a house into an IRA account? I mean, we all know how to put stock in there, right? So basically, to get a stock in there, you just go online, type something, and the next thing you know, you've traded, and now you've got a stock in your IRA account online. Well, when you put a house in your IRA, first off, you're buying a house. So I bought a couple, and I've worked in the industry, the lending industry and the real estate industry for a while. So isn't buying a house kind of a train wreck to begin with, right? There's always something that happens. The inspection didn't come in, or the appraisal, or there's some kind of crack in the foundation. There's always something. So number one, you're buying a house, so have those expectations. Number two, though, it's like a cash transaction. What you want to do is open a self-directed IRA first, then shop for a house. And if you do that, you'll be happy, because then you're going to have the money in your IRA for an earnest money deposit, which will be really great because the pressure will be on. You find the house you want. And if you don't have an IRA yet, well, guess what? It probably take your current custodian about 2 weeks to move the money into your current self-directed IRA account. So how long does it take? It's a day to open the account, couple weeks for your current custodian to get the money into your account. But when you're ready to go, if all your paperwork's right, it's 24, 48 hours. So it doesn't take that long. The longest period of time is getting your current custodian to release the funds. All right? Have that expectation going in. So basically, you give us a direction of investment form together with the offer to purchase or whatever else. Maybe you're buying precious metals. You're going to give us an invoice. Maybe your IRA is making a note. You give us a copy of the signed note. The direction of investment form and the supporting documentation, and we take a look at it, make sure it's all right. And once it is, 24, 48 hours later, we fund the deal. Now your IRA, you're self-directing. Your IRA owns an asset. Say it's a house. Well, now the renters are going to be making their payments to your IRA, right back to your IRA. So that's how it works. That's how you do it. Open, fund, invest is what we say. Here's an example. See these happy guys? I've been doing this slideshow for 3 years. I still need a picture of Bruce and Aaron in here for father and son. But we're going to say father and son are going to use this self-directed IRA concept to buy a house. But remember I told you that fathers and sons are disallowed to each other? Remember that? There's an exception. The exception is that you can be disallowed, but as long as you fund concurrently, it's okay. So here's what they're going to do. Dad has cash, son has a self-directed IRA. This is how title reads. The custodian for the benefit of the son's IRA, 50% owner, dad 50% owner, tenants in common. Yeah, before the deal, they're disqualified to each other, but neither one had an ownership interest in this property. So it's a new deal. There's no disqualified anything going on right there. The deal is open and you can do it. It's after closing that they become disallowed to one another in this transaction. So all money coming in is split pro rata, in this case 50-50. All expenses are split the same way, 50-50 going out. So that's how that works. And after the deal, they're never going to sell it to one another. They're never going to have any of their ascendants or descendants live in the property either. So there we go. So with real estate, have you ever seen a house that didn't need anything at all? They don't exist, do they? I mean, a house needs something. You know, I remember with a house I had, my son, who's very strong, pulled the railing off the wall, you know. A house, you always have to do something. I had a brand new house in Dallas, Texas, and there was a hailstorm. We had to put a brand new roof on a brand new house. Houses need something. Well, if your IRA owns the house, what are you going to do? All expenses of the IRA have to be paid for by the IRA. So what if your IRA depletes its reserves? What are you going to do? There are 6 things you can do. Number 1, you can make a contribution. And that contribution is going to depend upon your age. It's going to depend upon your income and also your account type. That's when you're going to want to talk to your CPA and say, how much can I contribute to my IRA? All right. Another thing you could do is maybe your IRA has other assets, like maybe gold bullion or something. So sell some of that and move the money over to make up the shortfall. You could also transfer money from an existing IRA, maybe across the street. You know, maybe it's at some other company where it's still in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Liquidate that, and 2 weeks later, they'll move the money over. You could take on a partner as long as they're not disqualified, and your IRA could also take on a loan to make up the shortfall, probably from an individual at that point, somebody who wasn't disqualified. But your IRA could do that. And there are ways to make up a shortfall, just so you know. And if you can't, if just none of this works, then you can always sell the asset. Okay, and there's something else to know about self-directed IRAs, and it's something that came out in 1996 because of something called Swanson v. Commissioner. What resulted from that case was something called the Checkbook IRA, which is such a horrible name, I really hate it. It's not a special kind of IRA. You're not going to be able to look up on the IRS website and say, where's the Checkbook IRA? It's just a name, it's a jargon name someone made up. What it really is an IRA-owned LLC. And these can be very effective and very powerful tools, but of course they can also, you have to really know how to use it. There's a lot of responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility, right, from Spider-Man, my favorite line ever. So this is great power, and you have great responsibility with it. But basically, your IRA is open and funded. Your IRA buys the initial shares of a special purpose LLC that you didn't set up yourself. You had somebody else set it up, like an attorney that knows what they're doing. Your IRA buys 100% of the initial shares, has to be initial shares of that LLC. You're the managing member of the LLC, and now your IRA money moves over and you've got checkbook control of that money, which is exactly what the IRS doesn't really want you to have, is control of your own money. But this is a way that you can, and there have been a couple of cases about it, besides after Swanson v. Commissioner, that have upheld this. So it's a great tool to use. There are pros and cons, but just so that you know it's out there, I think it's important to touch on it in any conversation about self-directed IRAs. And so as we start to wrap up, I'll mention that it's not just a self-directed IRA. Not just an IRA, it's so many kinds of IRAs. Matt and Amanda talked about the spousal IRA. Otherwise, you have to have earned income to put it into an IRA, but if you are a spouse of somebody who's working and you don't have any earned income yourself, you can still make a full contribution to an IRA account as though you did have earned income. You can also have a Roth, a SEP, a simple, all these different kinds of accounts, super powerful. A solo K is something that we do. We do plans for individuals. The plans that are for employers are up there under qualified plans, the first 3. But we do the solo K, really cool plan that gives you a lower retirement age, allows you to borrow from it, allows you to have a Roth contribution and make a very large Roth contribution. Lots of great things about the solo K. But there are things you can self-direct that aren't even retirement accounts. HSA, that's kind of kooky. That is really great. It came out a few years ago. Maybe you remember the old kind of plan at your work where you could put so much money into an account and you had to use it by the end of the year. Remember that account? Anybody ever use that? I know I used to. This is different. You don't lose it at the end of the year. It's not use it or lose it. This is different. It's an HSA. The money goes in after tax, so you get a deduction typically. It grows tax-free for life, and as long as you use it for a very long list of approved expenses on the Department of Treasury website, it comes out tax-free for life too. So you could have a Roth where it's growing tax-free and an HSA where it's growing tax-free. So if you want to learn about a tax-free investment strategy, these are some tools for your tool belt to use, very powerful. A Coverdell, which is an ESA or education savings account, saving money for a child's education, you can self-direct that too. So not just the self-directed IRA. How do you do it? Open, fund, invest. You open an account, you give us some paperwork, we have a $50 setup fee, then you can fund it either by writing a check for a contribution, by transferring IRA to IRA transfer, or by rolling over an employer plan. It's called a rollover. So one of those 3 ways you get the money in the account. Once it's there, open and funded, now you tell us what you want to invest in. You give us a direction letter, the supporting documentation, we get the money out into the deal, and now you have self-directed your IRA. That's how it works. All the money flows back into the IRA. Can you put it in your own pocket? No. I just had an attorney called me. His IRA owned a house, and he's been taking the rent checks and putting them in his own pocket and claiming them on his tax form as income. Isn't that kooky? So you can't do that. The IRS they're pretty serious about their rules. So just be really, really careful. And these are a lot of concepts that I've gone over quickly. I would love to go in depth with you on any issues that you have that we haven't covered, or maybe you have your own scenario. And you can reach me at udirectira.com. Our website has a lot of information. And by the way, you can find us on Facebook. We have a fan page, uDirect IRA, where you can post what you've got. Maybe you've got a haves and wants or something. We have a LinkedIn profile called Self-Directed Investors/Networkers, another great forum for self-directed investors to communicate with one another. And we have a YouTube channel full of YouTube videos explaining some of the intricacies of self-directed IRA investing. So with that, I just want to thank you so much for your attention, for being here this morning, and to the Norris Group also for creating this whole great event today. And I'll turn things back over to the Norris Group. Thanks very much.
Thank you.